Hi, so let's try and see if we can solve this next algorithm challenge. It says check same case, so I'm going to start with JavaScript as usual. So it says write a function that will check if two given characters are the same case. It says if either of the characters is not a letter, return -1. So that's the first condition. The second condition says if both characters are the same, return 1. And the last one, if both characters are letters but not the same case, return 0. We have examples explaining that here. So in this case, we have two letters that are not that are of the same case, so it's going to return 1, and that's here. If both characters are of the same case, return 1. Here we have both characters of the same case 2, return 1, and here we have both are letters but they are not of the same case. That's it fulfills this one. If both characters are letters but not of the same case, return 0. So you return 0. And here the same thing, both are letters but are not of the same case, so that's 0. And here we have a comma and a number in a string, so it says return -1 because if either of the character is not a letter, return. So let's take notice of this. It says either and it says both. So let's there are two ways to do this. First way is to isolate the first condition, which says if either of the characters is not a letter, definitely return -1. Then else, so it's going to be an if else statement, then else you handle this other two. And the second way to do it is first to handle these two by saying if those characters are letters, then you perform another function within it, or you just say then you say else it's going to return -1. So either way, but let's just start with this, then maybe we'll go back to the second one. So we're here, and let's remove that, and now we've given A and B, which represents the two letters. So we're going to first of all find out if A is and B are any of them, right, is not a letter. So how do we know that, right? Let's try something here. So assuming we have the letter here is a number, something like that, and 1, and the last one I'm going to say is a symbol, right? Symbol, that way. So that's fine. Question mark or this exclamation mark, same. So now we want to find out if this a letter is actually a letter, if this a number is a letter, and if symbol is a letter. So how do we know? Basically the quickest way to know is if you're using JavaScript is to see that if you convert the letter to uppercase from lowercase and vice versa, there's going to be a difference. That means it won't be the same again. So you have a smaller case letter and a uppercase letter, but if it's numbers, number will not change and the symbol will not change. So let's prove that. So we'll say log it out to the console, and we're going to say a letter, right? And what we're going to do is to change it to lowercase. We'll use the to lowercase function, right? And we'll say to lowercase. Let me remove that, and let me remove that too. Okay, so now we can see that it's changed it. Let me just make this capital, right? And console log a letter to lowercase, right? Sorry. And what we notice here is that it's showing a lowercase of a when we actually provided an uppercase a. So we're going to see that if this is a lowercase, then to convert it to uppercase, we'll use upper to uppercase instead in JavaScript. So to uppercase, and now it's back to uppercase. So what we're going to say is that if the lowercase, right, is not the same as the uppercase, so it's not equivalent, right, to now there's a mistake here because I meant to use capital L here. Yeah, so it's not the same, right? A letter here like this to uppercase. Now it's saying true that a lowercase letter here, which is the small a, definitely is not equivalent or the same as an uppercase a. So a lowercase a is not the same as an uppercase a. That's why it's saying true. But now let's try that with the number. So it's just the same thing. A lowercase number is not the same as an uppercase number, and it says false. Why? Because it's going to be the same. Let me show you. So if you say console.log, right, and we'll say a number, right, dot lowercase, guess what? It's giving you 1, right? If you change that to uppercase, right, see, same 1. So it means definitely that's not a letter, right? So let's try with symbol and see. A symbol dot lowercase, and what does it say? False. It's not the same. Why? Because if we do that and say log out the symbol, a symbol, right, a symbol dot lowercase, right, it's still giving you the symbol, right? But let's make it uppercase and see if there's a change. The same thing. So that's how the quickest way to know in JavaScript whether a letter is a letter or not, right? There's no function like Python that has a function to easily identify that it's upper or it's lower, but JavaScript doesn't have a function, so you have to find out yourself. So in this case, with this now, we can go back and use this understanding here and say if A is not a letter, or is not a letter, yeah, and or B is not a letter, then you perform something. So how do we do that? So if A is not a letter, just say A dot what, remember, come back when you convert it to lowercase and compare it with to uppercase, right? So A to lowercase, right? Now it's not. This time you will say is, right, because we want to see that it's a symbol or is a non-letter, right? So if that is the same thing as A dot to, now I've made this small letter again, A to upper case like this, then you definitely return, right, -1, because we are going to fulfill this now. But see, now it says either A or B, so we have to check that for B. So we'll say or, right, or the same thing. So I'm a bit lazy now, so I'll just copy all that from here, and I'll say B and B, right? B to lowercase or and A is equivalent to B to uppercase. So if that's the case, then definitely one of them is a symbol or non-letter, so we'll return that. So we'll say else. Now we have to solve that of the excuse me, else if. So we have to solve that of the case being a letter now. And now we're giving two conditions. One, when both of them are definitely letters, but they're also both similar cases. So in this case, we have both lower cases and here both upper cases. So we make them 1. But when they have different cases, then we make it 0. So first condition is if they have the same case. So how do we solve that? So to do that, let me just wipe that one out. So now we have a letter, right? I want to know if this letter is a lowercase, right? all we need to do is just say let's console.log, right, and a letter, right, it's giving that, but to lowercase, okay, sorry, to lowercase, right, to lowercase, converts to lowercase. Then we'll say, just to find out, we'll say a that, oh sorry, say a letter, right, is equivalent to this. Now it's false because this is uppercase and this lowercase, but if we had a small one, it says true, right? So we'll do that here. So if what a is, now we're handling for lowercase, if both a and b are lower cases, so a dot to lowercase, right, and b is equivalent to what, b dot to lowercase, right? So if this condition is true, then we are going to return. Now that's where the challenge, what are we returning? We return what, 1 or 0? We return 1 because that's what it's telling us here, that if is the same case, like in this case, if both are lowercase, return 1. So return 1, else what are we going to do? We'll return 0, because it means that if this is a letter, that means it doesn't fulfill this, because this one says if it's not a letter. If it's a letter and now it comes to this point and it sees that a and b are not of the same case, then definitely it's going to fulfill that last one here that says return 0. That's if both characters are letters but not the same case. So return 0. But we've not finished this. Why? Because we also have to check for uppercase. So if this and this are fulfilled, both are lowercase, or if, now just copy that because I'm a bit lazy now, and we'll do that for uppercase, right? Uppercase here, uppercase here, right? So if a and b are both uppercase, or a and b are both lower cases, then it's going to be 1. So I think we're done with this. Let me just test it, and it passed. Attempt, and it passed. So congratulations, we're done with that. Now let's try and swap it and see if we can do it the other way around. So what I mean is, instead here we're going to start by saying if the characters is a letter, yeah, both characters are letters, right, and then we resolve within that. If there are different cases, then we would now come and say else this. So let me just explain that. So it's more like I'm swapping it. So I'm saying if, and now I'm going to take all these ones, right, to lowercase, and I'm going to take it to the end here, cut it out, and this. So what it's saying is that if all this happens, that means a and b are both lowercase, or a and b are both uppercase. But now if I do that, I'm still left with this condition where a and b are letters but they're not uppercase. So what I want to do is to find out, first of all, if a and b are letters, and if they are both letters, then I would now go ahead to do this. So let me do that. I hope that's not confusing, but I'll explain. So now let's find out if a is a letter and b is also a letter. So we'll say a, and remember how we said we'll find that out. We'll say a dot lowercase to lowercase, right, to lowercase, just that way, And if this is not the same as a dot to uppercase, right, to uppercase, right, and this a, right, and now and because we have to check that of b. So what's this saying is that if a as a lowercase not the same as uppercase, then it's a letter, right, because it changes. Then we'll do that for b the same. So let me just copy that. So b to lowercase is not the same as b to uppercase. So if this condition is met, then we are going to now compare to see that both have the same case. Now, because we've agreed that definitely here this is definitely going to be a letter if they are both letters if they fulfill this condition, right? So let me just put it down here. Else is definitely going to return -1. So it's going to return the case of having a symbol, right? So we fulfilled that both cases are both letters. If not, then one of them is not a letter, or both of them are not letters. So it's going to fulfill this one. So in here is where I have to now call to solve this issue here. Now I'm going to find out if a is a lowercase at the same time with b, or a is an uppercase at the same time with b. So if that's the case, then it's going to return 1, else it will return 0. So let me just put that here. So sorry, let me cut that out, and I'll say if, right, so that we just understand. So see what it's saying here. If a is lowercase and b is lowercase, then they are the same case. Or if a is uppercase and b is uppercase, then they have the same case. So in that case, then I'm going to return what will I return? I'll return 1 because they are both the same cases. Then here, else return 0. So we're going to refactor this, but I just want to show that we can do it the other way around, right? So let's test and see. Okay, it passed, attempt, and it passed. So we can see now that it is working because it fulfills the condition. But I don't like it this way. We're going to refactor it. And how we're going to do that is we're going to just basically use Boolean, like convert Boolean to number. And it's quite easy. Just look at this. This is a condition. And it's saying if all this is true, what's it going to return? It's going to return true here, right? It's going to return true. And if it returns true, it's going to go into there to do whatever the function is meant to do, and it's going to return 1. But instead, we're going to just convert this to a number. And true, when true as a Boolean is converted to number, it's going to be 1. When false as a Boolean is converted to number, it's going to be 0. So in this case, true, if this is true, it's going to, as converted to a number, it will return 1. And if it's false, converted to a number, it's going to return 0. So that's what I'm going to. I'm just going to say return now number. So this is the typecasting. This way to cast from a Boolean to number, right? Just put number and put your values in the bracket in JavaScript, right? So let me clean all this, right? Can we see something? How short it has become. So hopefully this should work, because we're just saying if this is true, that means if both cases are if both letters are of the same case, then it will be 1, return 1. But if it's not of the same case, if either of them is capital while the other is lowercase, it will return false and it will return 0 when it's command. So let's try now. Oh, I knew there would be a problem somewhere. So See what it's saying our problem is. All right, let's see. See, we added this one here. So that's test again. Fun, nice, fantastic. So that solves it now, but we can still make this smaller. Ternary operator to do that. So definitely ternary operator would, this will go off, right? This is where it will return, right? So it's going to return. So all this is going to test it, right? And let me just remove that. It's going to test all that, and if that is true, so we'll put our question mark. If that is true, then it would return implicitly is going to return this. That's the number with all this converted, right? So it doesn't really look nice this way, but don't worry, I know what I'll do later. So else, so this else is going to be that. Else return that. So let's take that one here and spread that here. Oops, else, nice. So it's looking clumsy this way, but let me do something so that it's going to house all this within it, right? So let's run a test and see. Okay, all right, so that's working, but guess what, it still looks very clumsy. So we're going to apply regex here, regex function, regex, and that's regular expressions, and we're going to try and shorten this code. So to understand regex, basically when you are trying to find out if a value belongs to another set of values or is contained in those set of values, there are two things to be aware of. One is when you are matching a case, and another one is when you are testing for a case. So let's come here to see that, to understand, right? So assuming I have let me say a name, so I'm going to say const name, right? And the name of the person is John, right? Name John, right? And I want to find out if J is in John, right? So what do I do? So let me show you two ways to do that. Console.log, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that J. So I'm saying does J belong in, and regex comes with two slashes slanting to the right. Then in this case we're going to have the square bracket, and then we'll put in the value we want to compare with it with, and in this case is John. So now it's giving us that there is a hit here. So it's saying definitely this J, it belongs in John. Why? Because we can see J here. So let's change that John to a name, to the name variable here. So just copy that, we'll cut that out, and we're going to put it here just this way, and here we can say name, and now it's giving the hit. So it says J definitely belongs in name. Why? Because we have J here, right? So you use match when you want to search a character or a value inside another character, value, or string to see if it belongs there, right? But if we want to do it the other way around and see if a string has a value or a character, then we use test. So to do that, we will now say if does name, right? Test if name has this value J. And what's it saying here? It's saying true. What we can see here is that this gives boolean and this gives a match, right? But in actual sense, both is going to come in as true in both cases, right? Let me show you that. So I'm going to say if, and I'm just going to take this one, right? console.log J is a match, and see J is a match, right? So either way, you can use match test is going to return true if it matches or false if it doesn't, right? So let's go back here to apply that. And now we have to find out if, like what we're doing here is we want to know if this is a match to the alphabet, right? If A is a letter, right? If A is a letter and B is a letter, they are not symbols or numbers or anything else, right? So an easy way to do that, if we come back here, is when we compare, instead of John, we're going to compare it to the alphabet. So we can say the alphabet A to Z, right? That way. And if, let me remove this. And it's saying no because J is capital letter J. And what we fed it here with is a small letter. Let me just change that. Alphabet, right? Is small letters. So alphabet, right? So this is alphabet. It's saying false here and saying no, right? But if we include capital letters here, so we say comma, so A capital to Z capital, what? It's saying true. There's a match, right? So we can as well that confirms it that we can search for a value within the alphabet, both small letters and capital letters. So if it's small is this one, if it's capital letter is this one. But another way to, when you want to check for both capital and small letter, you just put like ignore, that's I. So we're ignoring casing. So whether it's the lowercase, we don't mind. So in this case, it's saying yes, that J belongs to the alphabet, right? So we're going to use this. This is our alphabet. So let me just copy this. So we're going to use this to match and compare a value. So this is returning this, but I'm going to say const alphabet, right? And I'm now returning is A, remember, dot match. If A matches, right? And now we can, like here, alphabet, right? So we'll now put alphabets. So if A belongs to the alphabet and B, the same thing, matches, right? Match alphabets, right? So this should still work. If we try that, so our regex worked, attempt, it worked, right? So if we have this case, then it's like what we're doing here, we're going to also refactor this. And now it's saying A is a lowercase and B is a lowercase. So how do we do lowercase? Remember, only using this, right? So let me just create another one here. Say const lower case, something like that. And I'm just going to do that without the I. And I'm going to say const upper case, right? And I'll take that this way, and I'm going to put the capital letters there, so we can see that now. So now we want to say A, we're going to match it, right? So if A dot match, A matches with, in this case, lowercase, and B dot match matches with lowercase too, if they are both lowercase, or right, A matches with dot match with uppercase, right, and B matches with uppercase. So if the condition is met, it's still going to do the same thing. So let's run it test. Now we have a problem. It said for same case expected not a value to equal 1. All right, so we made a mistake somewhere. So can we see where the mistake is? Yeah, remember when we came here we said when you are using tests compared to when you're matching, it doesn't give you a direct boolean. Yeah, so what we'll do instead is we're going to make this test, right, so that it makes it directly to boolean. So we'll just copy this one here, and I'm going to say tests A, and do the same thing, test B, do the same thing here, test A, and do the same thing here, test B. So let me see if that works now. So you see it works now because it's giving direct boolean. It's giving true instead of the word. So typecasting may not work for matching, but it works with test, right? Because it's giving direct. So that's basically it. I don't know. If there is a way to refactor this further. Don't know. You can go ahead and try and do that out, but I think I've tried my best, and this is basically it, right? So let's go and try doing that with Python. So with Python, let's see how we can solve this now. And we have A and B, which is the same values, and remember we are checking for 3 instances when this is both low. They are both lowercase, they are both uppercase. That's for one, both lower or upper cases, and the other different cases is for the second one, and when there is a symbol, or when there is a number or something that is besides a letter. So let's check for when it's a letter in the first place. So to do that, we'll just say if. Now to find out if a value is a letter is pretty simple in Python. We'll just say is a dot is alpha. So that will check if that A is a letter, or B dot is alpha. So if this is the condition where both are alphabets, then we're going to return something, right? We're going to return whatever. Else we're going to return -1, because that's what we stated. If one of them is it's not a letter, then return -1, right? So this is not meant to be all. Actually, it's meant to be if A is alpha and B is alpha. So if both are alphabets, right? So else, so now after we've checked that out, then we're now going to find out for this if both are uppercase or both are lowercase, right? So we'll do that. So if A is A dot so is upper or is lower, this is another function to find out if it's lowercase, and B dot is lower. So if A and B is lower, right? So let me just put that if that's the case, or if A dot is upper and B dot is upper, So if this is the case here, that A and B are both lower, or A and B are both upper, then we're going to return 1, right? Now we don't use semicolons here in Python, so we're going to return 1, else we're going to return 0, right? So if both cases are both lower or both cases are both upper, then you return 1, else 0. So remember when we did typecasting and we were able to say, oh, if this is going to return true and we typecast it into a number, it will be 1. And if this is going to return false and we typecast that into a number, it will be 0, right? So let's try doing that now. So to typecast, you just simply say int. That's to make it an integer, right? So return int of whatever it comes out of this. So if it's true, it's going to be 1. If it's not true, it's going to be 0, right? So we'll remove all that, and now see, we've summarized it into this, right? Let's try and test and see if that works. All right, it did. Attempt, and voila, it did. So let's finally use the ternary operator. But the ternary operator in Python is different from JavaScript. You know, JavaScript uses the question mark and the colon, but in Python it uses if else case, right? So let's do that for this. So we're going to say this condition is going to be met, or let's just say return this one, return all this, right? Return all this, right? If this condition is met, right? That's what it means. Else return -1, right? So you see how Python makes it so easy, right? So let's test again, and it worked. An attempt, and it worked. So that's basically how to solve checksum case.